Good morning and welcome to Rising. We have a great Friday show for you right before a holiday. I always know to be happy because you're here on Friday.
Oh, that's so sweet.
And so I know that we're running into the weekend.
I'm excited. How was your trip, by the way?
It was good. So I went to Qatar and we were doing a docuseries for News Nation, and I just was able to just like embrace it and explore. Now I have this travel series that's separate from this called World of Travel, and I have to produce, do everything on the ground. But this was nice to just show up and be told what the schedule was, but also work alongside some really strong and amazing News Nation producers. So
that's awesome.
I'm excited for everybody to see. Yeah, it's a fascinating place.
Coming up on Rising, a federal judge ruled that the Trump administration must end its months-long National Guard deployment in Washington, D.C.
And we'll be taking a look at Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy's new message to American travelers. I'm sure you saw that as we head into the holiday season.
But first, I'm sure we have thoughts about that, but what's on your lens?
Not that, but we'll get to that. So no one had this on their 2025 political bingo card. Zohran Mamdani, New York's new mayor-elect and self-described Democratic socialist, walking into the White House to sit down with President Donald Trump after months of them lobbing political grenades at each other. Yet, here we are. And honestly, I think this meeting needed to happen. So Mamdani is only 34 years old, barely known outside of the 5 boroughs before this election season. Now he's suddenly a national figure, and Trump is calling him the, quote, communist mayor, who supposedly begged for an Oval Office sit-down. Mamdani says the agenda for the meeting is about public safety, affordability, and economic security, all things New Yorkers are desperate for, in his words. He also spelled out why this moment matters. Take a look.
I know that for tens of thousands of New Yorkers, this meeting is between two very different candidates who they voted for the same reason. They wanted a leader who would take on the cost of living crisis that makes it impossible for working people to afford living in this city.
Then he doubled down.
My team reached out to the White House to set up this meeting because I will work with anyone to make life more affordable for the more than 8.5 million people who call this city home. I have many disagreements with the president, and I believe that we should be relentless and pursue all avenues and all meetings that could make our city affordable for every single New Yorker.
Now, here's where my unpopular opinion comes in. Mamdani and Trump are a lot more alike than either of them wants to admit. And that's exactly why this meeting has real potential. Think about it. They both ran as political outsiders, promising to blow up the status quo. They both use social media and alternative platforms to bypass traditional media in many ways. Mamdani even threw a press conference exclusively for influencers and content creators. That's a page straight out of the Trump 2016 playbook. Now, according to NBC News, his team said it was, quote, aimed at reaching new and less politically engaged audiences. That's also MAGA 101. And look at their core messages: affordability, the economy, the everyday American, or in Mamdani's case, the everyday New Yorker. Strip away the ideology, and they were talking to the same pain points. When voters in two completely different universes respond to the same message, maybe the divide isn't as deep as the headlines make it seem. These two have traded barbs for months. Trump accused him of being a, quote, communist and threatened to even deport Mamdani and even withhold federal money from New York. Mamdani clapped back on election night, telling the president to, quote, turn the volume up. Trump fired off, quote, and so it begins, on Truth Social. It's messy, it's petty, it's politics. But today's meeting, it could be the first adult decision either of them has made in a minute. Because if two men who built their brands on division can show even a flicker of cooperation, that sets the tone for the entire country. They don't have to like each other. They don't even have to agree. But they do have a shared responsibility: the cost of living, the crisis that's hitting millions of Americans. And on that, their goals definitely overlap. So here's my lens. If Mamdani and Trump really do have so much in common, then maybe, just maybe, they can let bygones be bygones and show America what working across the aisle actually looks like. If they want to prove they're leaders, this is their chance. And honestly, that might be the most affordable change either of them can offer right now.
Well, really interesting, Lindsey. I actually agree with everything that you said.
You think they're similar?
I do, yeah. Well, So I was talking to a Democratic strategist who was talking about really how they ran the Mamdani campaign. He wasn't on it, but watching from the outside and living in New York. And he said that Mamdani's goal was to build a grassroots coalition and to get out low and mid propensity voters and people who had never voted before. That is exactly what Trump did in 2024, was they focused on low and mid prop voters, right? So there is a complete overlap in the strategy of who they're trying to appeal to. They both focused heavily on economic issues, and they're both these sort of outsider, like supposedly not really politician-type candidates. So I do think that strategy-wise, they are alike in a lot of ways, and I'm very curious to see how this meeting goes. There's not a lot of details about it, which is interesting.
I know, we're trying to talk to all the White House correspondents that we know. They're like,
right, the reporters don't know anything. The White House officials, perhaps outside of people actually involved in the immediate planning, don't have no idea when he's coming or like where he's going to be. They said he's going to show up, and that's when we'll know that he's there.
I think for entertainment purposes, right, a lot of people are looking at this and like, oh, this could be like Real Housewives of Potomac, right? Like he can get in the Oval Office. And it's not that great for our country to have that happen. Like to have a moment that we had with Volodymyr Zelensky where there's a blow up between the vice president and a president of Ukraine and our president, or like what happened with the South African leader that came in the Oval Office and there was a kind of discrepancy, articles pulled up just to like for a gotcha kind of moment. Even though there might be merit to the issues, there's a way and decorum that I hope we can bring back to the office, even with the transparency that the president says that he has by having the arguments out loud in front of everybody. I would love to see them talk about it, because what I know is that looking at polling and how the trajectory of polling has gone this year is that people are really frustrated with political leaders on both sides of the aisle. It usually gets people out to vote. I think sometimes people get out to vote because they want their cause championed, and some people just get out to vote to have something stop that's currently in leadership. And so if people are upset about the economy still and we're blaming Biden, but Biden is no longer to blame, then the onus is now on President Trump, who's now 11 months into the year. And I think that he can work alongside the New Yorkers that are frustrated, people that remind me of like a Joe Rogan, who went from supporting Bernie Sanders to supporting President Trump, because some of those policies of talking to the everyday American overlap. They can have an opportunity to show Congress possibly how to behave and maybe get stuff done. Or they can have a theatrical moment that we'll talk about for the next few weeks that gets us nowhere.
And I'm also curious to see where immigration comes up on this, because Mamdani has said that he does not want the city to cooperate with ICE, which was something that Mayor Eric Adams was willing to do. I wouldn't be surprised if that's an ask that Trump makes of Mamdani in exchange for getting that federal funding. There was an interview that Mamdani did with a local news outlet earlier this week where he was asked about the free bus program, and he wanted to fund it by raising corporate tax rates, which Kathy Hochul has already said that she's not willing to do. And he was like, well, the most important thing is not how we fund it, it's that we fund it. And so he's already running into roadblocks in terms of implementing his agenda. And so I guess the question then is, will voters blame him if these things don't get implemented, or will Kathy Hochul become the sort of scapegoat?
Oh, right. And I think there's a lot there about what Mamdani has said on the campaign trail. But again, I liken him to President Trump as well about things that are promised, like I'm turning this economy around first thing, and we're 11 months into the year, or I'm ending wars. And even though he says it was an exaggerated claim, immediately, days into his presidency, and or months in before we even started having real conversations. I think that those are, people overpromise on campaign trails on both sides of the aisle. So there's going to be frustration there. Mamdani has some real pie in the sky ideas that don't land for all Americans specifically, but New Yorkers. So I think he's going to have to explain himself. But as long as he's pushing and we see some results, the best thing that can happen to him is that even one of his policies lands and provides a runway for New Yorkers to have ease economically. And then Democrats can maybe look to some of the policy ideas without saying we adopt this entire idea of being democratic socialists, and say these policies work, and this is what we're implementing into our strategy for the next few years, because I'm not seeing a clear strategy.
I am excited to see what comes out of this meeting. The tone, what they talk about. How long are they going to sit in front of the cameras versus maybe having some sort of, backroom meeting where the press isn't privy to it? And are they going to take questions from the media too, right?
They need to. I mean, if you took questions with the leader of Saudi Arabia, the Crown Prince, come on, you could take questions with Mamdani. This is like the stakes were a little higher with the Crown Prince. So we'll see. President Trump seemingly calling for Democratic leaders to be hanged. What he posted on Truth Social and what the White House is saying next. We'll be right back.